Right now, while you're standing there looking at your clematis and quietly wondering if it's done for the year, that plant is busy doing something you can't see. Down inside the stems, in the joints where the leaves meet the vine, it's already deciding how many flowers you're going to get. Not next month, next spring, next summer, the whole thing. And here's the part that catches people out. Clematis doesn't make that decision in March when you finally get around to pruning it. It makes it now, in the last stretch of August, based on what it has to work with. How much water reached the roots, how warm the soil got, how much light hit the leaves, whether it was pushing out soft new growth or quietly building up reserves. So no, this isn't a video about tidying up. This is about the 2 or 3 weeks a year where a small amount of effort gets multiplied by 10. Do these 7 things before August ends and you'll get a second flush of flowers on repeat bloomers this season. A plant that goes into winter strong instead of stressed, and a wall of color next year that makes your neighbors slow down when they walk past. Skip them, and you'll get what most people get. A leggy vine with flowers only at the top, and a summer of wondering what went wrong. Let's get into it. 1. Stop snipping the dead flower off, and start chasing the stem back. This is the single most common mistake, and it's costing people an entire second flush of blooms. When a clematis flower fades, most gardeners do the obvious thing. They pinch the brown head off with their fingers, or they snip it right at the base of the flower, and they move on. It looks tidy. It does almost nothing. What you want to do instead is follow that flower stem back down toward the main vine until you find the first strong pair of leaves with fat, plump buds sitting in the joint. Not the thin, flat, sleepy-looking ones, the fat ones. Then cut just above that pair. You're removing 3, 4, sometimes 6 inches of stem instead of half an inch of dead petal. The reason this works comes down to what the plant is trying to do. Once a flower fades, the vine wants to pour energy into making seed heads. Those fluffy silver whorls are gorgeous, but every single one is a flower you didn't get. When you cut back to a live bud pair, you interrupt that seed-making instinct and redirect everything into the buds instead. On a repeat blooming variety, those buds will break within 2 to 3 weeks. If you deadhead properly right now, in the last stretch of August, most large-flowered clematis will hand you a second round of blooms in September that's smaller in flower size, but heavier in flower count. One thing to be careful about here. If you're growing a late-flowering type that's still in full swing right now, the small-flowered kinds that cover themselves in dozens of little blooms, leave it alone and let it finish. This job is for the big-flowered ones that peaked back in early summer and have been sulking ever since. Quick one, if you actually want a step-by-step guide for all this. Maybe your plant's struggling or you just can't get it to bloom. I put every fix into one cheat sheet. You get everything in my Plant Fix and Bloom cheat sheet. It's the first link in the description. Let's continue. 2. Cut the nitrogen off completely and switch to potassium. If there's one thing I want you to change today, it's what's in your watering can. A lot of people keep feeding their clematis general-purpose plant food right through the end of summer because feeding feels like caring. And through spring, that's correct. But nitrogen tells a plant one thing: grow, make leaves, push soft green shoots. In late August, that's the last message you want to send. Soft late-season growth is a liability. It doesn't have time to firm up before the weather turns. It's the first thing to get hammered by an early frost, and it's a magnet for mildew because it's tender and full of water. Worse, all that energy going into leaves is energy not going into buds. What you want now is potassium, the same thing you'd feed tomatoes. Potassium does the opposite job. It hardens off the stems, thickens the cell walls, and most importantly, it feeds bud formation. Those buds sitting in the leaf joints right now are what open next spring, and they're being built with whatever the plant has on hand this month. So, liquid tomato feed, diluted as directed, once a week for the rest of August and into early September. Then, stop entirely. Feeding your clematis high-potash food in late August is the closest thing there is to placing an order for next year's flower count. because the buds forming this month are the exact buds that open next May. And a quick note if you're growing in a container. Nutrients wash straight out the bottom of pots every time you water, so a potted clematis is almost always hungrier than one in the ground. Same feed, but pay attention. If the leaves are going pale between the veins, it's been running on empty for a while. 3. Untangle the top and weave the new growth sideways. Go and look at your clematis honestly. I'd guess there's a dense knot of growth somewhere near the top, a bird's nest of stems all crossing over each other, and below it, a stretch of bare woody legs with nothing going on. That's not bad luck. That's just how clematis behaves when nobody intervenes. It's a plant that races for light, so every new shoot heads straight up, and the shoots at the very top get all the resources while everything lower down gets shaded out and gives up. Every year, it gets a little worse, until you've got a green umbrella 8 feet up and a bare stick underneath. Late August is your window to fix it, because the current season's growth is still flexible. Give it another month and those stems turn brittle and snap when you bend them. Here's what to do. Find the long, whippy shoots at the top, gently unhook them, and instead of letting them run vertically, lay them out horizontally across your support and tie them loosely in place with soft twine. Bend them sideways. Bend some of them downward if you can reach a lower part of the trellis. Work slowly, because clematis stems snap at the leaf joints if you rush. The moment you train a clematis stem sideways, instead of letting it run straight up, the plant stops funneling everything into the tip and starts waking up buds all along that stem, which is exactly how you get flowers at eye level instead of only at the roof line. While you're up there, check every tie you put on in spring. Stems have thickened since then, and a tie that was comfortable in May can be strangling a vine by August. Loosen anything that's cutting in. 4. Water like you actually mean it, and cool the roots down. Clematis has a split personality. It wants its head in the sun and its feet in the cold, and August is the month where that second half gets neglected. Most people water clematis the way they water everything else. A quick pass with the hose, a bit of a splash at the base, done. That wets the top inch of soil and evaporates by noon. Meanwhile, the roots that actually matter are running a foot or more down, and in late summer heat, they're bone dry. What a clematis needs is volume, delivered slowly. A full watering can or two, poured out gradually so it soaks in instead of running off, delivered around the plant rather than dumped on the crown. Twice a week beats a little every day, every single time. And do it in the evening or early morning so it actually reaches the roots rather than steaming off the surface. Then deal with the temperature. Clematis roots hate being hot, and a bare patch of soil at the base of a sunny wall in August is genuinely hostile. Lay down a thick mulch, bark, compost, leaf mold, whatever you've got. But keep it pulled back a couple of inches from the stems so you're not trapping moisture against them. Even better, put something living or solid in front of the base. A low perennial, a small shrub, even a paving slab laid flat on the soil. A clematis that goes into September properly hydrated with cool, shaded roots will set noticeably more flower buds than one that spent August thirsty, and you won't see the difference until next year when it's too late to fix. 5. Deal with wilt the same day you spot it. This is the one that breaks people's hearts, and it hits hardest in late summer. You walk out one morning and an entire stem, sometimes the whole plant, has collapsed. Leaves black at the edges, stems limp, the whole thing looking scalded. Yesterday it was fine. Today, it's dead. That's clematis wilt, a fungal problem that gets in through a small wound in the stem and blocks the plant's plumbing from the inside. Do not wait to see if it recovers. It won't, and the fungus spreads. Take clean, sharp secateurs and cut the affected stem right back until you're looking at healthy, white, firm tissue inside the cut. If that means going all the way to soil level, go to soil level. Bag up everything you remove and bin it. Don't compost it, and don't leave it lying at the base. Then wipe your blades with rubbing alcohol before you touch another plant, because those blades will carry it straight to the next one. Cutting a wilted clematis hard back to clean tissue feels brutal, but a healthy plant almost always regenerates from buds below the soil line, which is precisely why clematis are planted deep in the first place. That deep planting is your insurance policy. If yours went into the ground with the crown 3 or 4 inches below the surface, there are dormant buds down there waiting. If it was planted level with the soil, take note for the future, because that one detail is the difference between losing a stem and losing a plant. 6. Open the plant up so air can move through it. Powdery mildew shows up almost on schedule in the second half of August, when the days are still warm but the nights turn cool and damp. You'll see it as a dusty gray-white film on the leaves and stems, usually starting deep in the middle of the plant where nothing dries out. The instinct is to reach for a spray. But mildew on clematis is nearly always a symptom of stagnant air, not a mysterious infection, and if you don't fix the airflow, you'll be spraying every fortnight forever. So thin it out. Reach into the congested middle of the plant and remove the weakest, most tangled, most shaded stems, the ones with small pale leaves that clearly aren't earning their keep. You're not pruning for shape here, and you're definitely not doing your annual prune. You're just opening windows. Take out enough that you could put a hand through the middle of the plant without a struggle. Pull any dead leaves and old debris out of the base while you're there, because that's where mildew spores and slugs both overwinter. A clematis with air moving freely through its center dries off after every dew and every rain shower. And a plant that dries off quickly simply doesn't get mildew in the first place. If it's already established, a spray of 1 teaspoon of baking soda per liter of water with a drop of dish soap will hold it back, but only after you've done the thinning. 7. Take free plants now while the stems are exactly right. This is the one almost nobody does, and it's the most satisfying job on the list. Late August stems are in a perfect middle state, not soft and green like spring growth, not hard and woody like old wood, half-ripe. And half-ripe clematis stems root beautifully if you give them soil contact. Here's the method. Choose a long, healthy, flexible stem near the base and lay it down along the ground. At a point where a pair of leaves meets the stem, scratch the surface of the stem lightly with your fingernail or a knife tip, just enough to break the skin. Pin that spot down into the soil with a bent piece of wire or a small stone, and cover it with an inch of compost. Leave the rest of the stem attached to the mother plant and let the tip carry on growing. You can do this at 3 or 4 points along one stem and get 3 or 4 new plants from it. Because the layered stem stays attached and fed by the parent plant the entire time, it roots with almost no risk of failure, which makes this far more reliable than trying to strike cuttings in a pot. Then forget about it. Water occasionally, leave it through winter, and by next spring you'll be able to lift the pinned sections, snip them free, and plant them out. Free clematis, identical to the parent, for about 10 minutes of work. So that's your list. Deadhead back to the fat buds. Cut the nitrogen and switch to potash. Train the new growth sideways. Water deep and shade the roots. Cut out wilt the day you see it. Open the plant up to the air, and pin down a few stems for free plants next year. None of it takes long. Honestly, you could do all 7 on one Saturday morning with a pair of secateurs, a ball of twine, and a watering can. But the timing is the whole point, and that window closes at the end of the month. If this helped, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because we go deep on one plant at a time here. No vague advice, no filler. And tell me in the comments which clematis you're growing, and which of these 7 you're going to do first. I read them all. Now go and look at your plant. It's telling you what it needs.